You're driving home. You're carrying for protection. In fact, your gun is tucked away in the center console. You're doing everything right. But suddenly, you see red and blue lights in your rearview mirror. You pull over on the side of the road. The cops walk up to your window. And as you roll your window down, he leans in and says the one thing that makes your stomach drop. Are you carrying a gun? Now, I need you to hear this because what you say and what you do in the next 5 seconds could actually save your life. I'm not being dramatic. I'm not exaggerating. This is not about going to jail. It's about actually going home. Because unlike every other video in this series, the wrong answer to this question could actually cost you your life. In 2016, a man by the name of Philando Castile was pulled over in Minnesota for a broken taillight. He was a legal gun owner. He even had a legal carry permit. He did what most people thought was the right thing. He told the officer he had a firearm, and then when he reached for his ID, the officer shot him 7 times. Mr. Castile lost his life while his girlfriend and his daughter sat there and watched the whole thing. He did everything people tell you to do. He was honest. He was cooperative. He still lost his life. That's why in this video, I'm going to give you the exact words to say to the cop and the exact things to do because your body language and what you say have to match up to make it out of this situation. And stick around to the end because I'm going to give you the laws state by state so you'll know exactly what steps apply to you. Now, here's what most people don't realize. When cops lean in and ask the question, "Are you carrying a gun?" that question is a trap from both directions. If you say the wrong thing one way, you could end up with a weapons charge. Get it wrong the other way, and you make a move that a nervous cop interprets as a threat, it could cost you much more than an arrest. This is a dual trap. And the reason why it's so dangerous is because the cop is nervous and scared too. We have to understand a little bit about police training. Police officers are trained that every traffic stop could end up being their last. They don't know who you are, they don't know what's in your car, and the moment a gun enters the conversation from either side, adrenaline spikes, and people can tend to overreact. Immediately, the cop's hand goes to the holster. They're watching every move you make, every twitch. And that's not an exaggeration. It's actually their training, which brings me to the mistakes, because the mistakes people make in answering this cop's question, they're not just legally wrong, they're physically dangerous. Mistake number 1. Yeah, officer, I got a gun. That's it. No context, just I got a gun. Think about what the officer hears. He doesn't hear responsible gun owner. He hears an immediate threat. You saying you've got a gun escalates the encounter to the highest level of danger. Mistake number 2, reaching for your driver's license or your permit before being told to. The officer walks up and asks about a gun. Now, if you happen to have a concealed carry permit, the first thing you want to do is pull it out of your wallet and show it to him. So maybe you reach towards your glove box, maybe your center console or your back pocket, but the officer, he doesn't know you're reaching for a permit. The officer only sees you reaching, and that reach, whether it be towards your driver's license, whether it be towards your permit, or what the cop thinks is going towards a gun, that's what actually got Mr. Philando Castile shot. You see, Philando, he reached for his wallet, and that's all it took. And the mistake number 3, it's right here, officer. Let me show you. I get it. You're trying to be helpful. You're just trying to show the officer where the firearm is, but all the officer sees is someone reaching for a weapon. Your intentions never matter to the cop, only your movement does. Finally, mistake number 4. Lying in a duty to inform state. Here's where you've got to know your state's laws. Because if you live in a duty to inform state and you choose to tell the officer, no, officer, I'm not armed, you could end up facing a criminal charge for failing to disclose. And if the officer finds out you lied about having a gun and failing to disclose it in a duty to disclose state, you can guarantee that officer is going to get you out of the car, search everything in your vehicle, and treat you a little bit more hostile than he would otherwise. But here's where it gets super frustrating, because the answer to what you should tell that officer when he asks, "Are you carrying a gun?" is going to depend primarily on what state you're in. There are over 25 states in the country right now that provide constitutional carry, which means you're allowed to carry a firearm without a permit. But here's the problem. Particularly if you have a permit, you've got to make sure you check your state's laws to see if there is a duty to inform that officer you're carrying a gun during a traffic stop. Because if there is a duty to inform, technically, you are supposed to inform the officer at the time of the traffic stop you're carrying a gun. But other states have no duty to inform at all. And then some other states only require you to tell the officer if he asks. And if you're driving across state lines, the rules change at the border. But why does all this matter? Because the cops know that the law is on their side when it comes to guns. They know the Supreme Court has said that they can order you out of your car if they believed you're armed and dangerous. They also know that the Supreme Court said that they can do what's called a temporary frisk to pat you down for their officer safety if they believed you're armed and dangerous. And finally, cops know under Supreme Court standard, they can search your entire car if they believe there's a weapon present. So what do you do when you know there's 50 states with 50 different laws and you want to make sure you come through this safe and sound? That's why you have to have the framework that works everywhere. And once you hear it, you'll understand it's important to not only say the right things, but let your actions back up what you say. Here's the exact protocol. Memorize it. Step number 1, before the officer even reaches your window, before he even asks you a question, 10 and 2 on that steering wheel. Make sure your hands are always visible. Your interior light comes on if it's nighttime. Don't make any sudden movements. Step number 2. If you do live in a duty to inform state, before the officer even asks, say this, officer, I want to let you know I have a valid carry permit and I am currently armed. My firearm is in the center console. My hands are staying right here on the steering wheel. How would you like me to proceed? Step number 3. If you're not in a duty to inform state and the officer asks if you're armed, you have no duty to tell him you have a firearm in the car. Choosing not to disclose can sound like this. Officer, I do not consent to any searches. Am I free to leave? But if you choose to tell the officer anyway, say this. Officer, I do have a valid permit. I am carrying a weapon. It is in the center console. How would you like me to proceed? But quick warning here. If you choose to disclose here, it's really important to understand the officer has all the law on his side where he can require you to get out of the car, do a full pat-down search of you, and potentially even search the inside of your vehicle because the presence of a gun allows him to, legally in every state and certainly in the Supreme Court, to justify these actions because of his officer's safety. But always remember, if you are not in a duty to disclose state, whether you have a permit or you don't have a permit, you are never obligated to tell the officer that you're actually carrying a gun. You always have a Fourth Amendment right to tell the officer, Officer, I don't consent to searches. Am I free to go? The burden is on that officer to establish some probable cause that he has a reason to want to search your vehicle, and merely exercising your constitutional rights can never be used against you as justification to search your vehicle. But if you do choose to disclose, let me show you why these exact magic words work so well. I have a valid permit. The first thing the officer hears is that you have a legal permit to carry. You're not a threat. You're not a criminal. You're legal. I have a valid carry permit. I am currently armed. No ambiguity, no surprises. The officer knows exactly what the situation is. I have a valid carry permit. I am currently armed. The firearm is in the center console. You've told the officer at the exact location of where the firearm is located, so there's no confusion. And finally, my hands are staying right here. You're making it crystal clear to that officer you are not going to move. You're reinforcing what they already see, and they can never claim that their nervousness gave them the justification to draw down on you. And then you cap it off with, how would you like me to proceed? This is the most important sentence because you've turned the control back over to the officer and you're forcing him to think, not react. Likely, what the officer will say is, keep your hands where they're at. Do not move. I'm going to reach in and grab the firearm. They might then ask you to step out of the vehicle slowly. Or you might get a good officer who will say, "Thank you for letting me know. Don't need to see the weapon." And maybe he either gives you a ticket or let you go on your way. Oh, and don't forget if the officer says, "Let me see your driver's license and your insurance." You better not move those hands. You better ask specific permission. "Officer, I need your consent. I want to make sure you're okay with me reaching back to my back pocket to grab my wallet." And then if you get that permission, you move very, very slowly. This is the one thing that cost Mr. Castile his life. And what if you do everything right, just like Mr. Castile, and the officer escalates it anyway? Don't move. If he draws down on you and you start sweating bullets and you're trying to figure out what's going on, the worst thing you could possibly do is move. You've got to stay still and you've got to play this game of chicken with that officer so that you aren't the first one to flinch. And what if you're a passenger instead? Same protocol. Keep your hands visible. No sudden movements. Don't turn around. Don't reach under the seat. The same type of behavior on a passenger can escalate the entire encounter, and bullets can literally rain down on the entire car. But what if, instead of walking up to your window and asking if you have a gun, what if the officer instead leans in and goes, snorts, "I smell alcohol." Check out this next video where I break down if the officer says, "I smell alcohol." These are the words to stop them. See you over there.